Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Today we've got a huge story that's shaking up the AI world again. Microsoft and OpenAI, the duo that's basically been running the show for years, are redefining their partnership in a way that could change everything about how OpenAI is structured, how it raises money, and how Microsoft positions itself in AI. It's messy, it's high stakes, and it's honestly fascinating to see unfold. So here's what's happening. Microsoft and OpenAI have announced a new non-binding agreement. That means it's more like a memorandum of understanding, a framework, not a legally enforceable contract yet. But the intent is clear. They're reshaping how they work together, and in the process, OpenAI could transform its for-profit arm into a full-fledged public benefit corporation, or PBC. So, what does this complex arrangement actually mean? In essence, under this new structure, OpenAI's original nonprofit arm would still call the shots. Its board would keep ultimate control of the for-profit's operations and overall governance. This is a highly unusual setup in Silicon Valley, where most companies eventually shed nonprofit oversight in favor of pure corporate management, all to chase faster growth and higher profits. But here, the nonprofit would not only retain authority, it would also hold a massive equity stake in the PBC. We're talking over $100 billion in value, making it one of the richest philanthropic organizations on the planet, with a potential endowment rivaling established giants. Bret Taylor, the chairman of OpenAI's board, has been calling this recapitalization historic. He's saying it would create the resources to fully pursue its core mission and bring the nonprofit's community impact to levels rarely seen before. Now think about that. A nonprofit that started with a mission to ensure artificial general intelligence benefits humanity could suddenly be sitting on a war chest, bigger than almost any other philanthropic foundation. That alone is staggering, but let's rewind for a second, because the historical context here is crucial. Microsoft's deep partnership with OpenAI began back in 2019, when it invested $1 billion. Then in 2023, it went even bigger, pouring in around $10 billion. In exchange for its massive investment, Microsoft enjoyed exclusive rights to market OpenAI's software through its Azure cloud, a huge competitive advantage, plus priority access to its most advanced models. That's what made Microsoft's Copilot products and Azure AI offerings so compelling. For a time, no one else had that level of deep, foundational integration. But the relationship started shifting earlier this year. OpenAI began looking beyond Microsoft for computing power, which makes sense. The demand for AI is massive, and OpenAI's revenues are now climbing into the billions. That kind of growth requires staggering amounts of compute, and relying on just one partner, no matter how deep the pockets, isn't enough anymore. That's where Project Stargate comes in. This is OpenAI's ambitious data center initiative, and it's backed by some truly enormous deals. One of them's a $300 billion 5-year cloud deal with Oracle that kicks in starting 2027. Another is a partnership with Google, and then there's SoftBank, teaming up with OpenAI on the Stargate project as well. All of this points to one reality. OpenAI is spreading its wings, diversifying its partnerships, and setting itself up to go big, way beyond a single partner ecosystem. Microsoft, of course, isn't just shrugging and stepping aside. The company wants guaranteed access to OpenAI's technology, even in the extreme scenario, where OpenAI declares that its models have reached something like human-level intelligence. Under the current framework, if OpenAI hit that milestone, their partnership could technically end. That's not a position Microsoft wants to be in. So part of this new agreement is about ensuring they're never left out in the cold. Now the nonprofit structure makes this even more interesting. Today, OpenAI is still controlled by its nonprofit board. The same board that made headlines in 2023 when it ousted Sam Altman, only to reinstate him days later. That board holds authority over how the for-profit arm operates. And with this new PBC transition, it wouldn't just hold authority, it would hold financial stake too. Taylor says the nonprofit stake in the PBC will exceed $100 billion, tied to OpenAI's sky-high private valuation of around $500 billion. That's 20% of the value. Imagine a nonprofit suddenly becoming that powerful financially, all while steering the governance of a company building the most advanced AI systems in the world. But before any of this becomes official, there are hurdles. Attorneys general in California and Delaware have to sign off on OpenAI's conversion into a PBC. The timeline is tight. They want to get this finalized by year's end. If they miss the deadline, they risk losing billions in funding. So the pressure is on. OpenAI and Microsoft put out a joint statement on X, confirming the MOU, saying they're working toward a definitive agreement. Their language emphasized safety, saying they're committed to delivering the best AI tools for everyone, grounded in safety. Taylor's blog post drove that point home too. He stressed that safety decisions will always be guided by the mission to ensure AGI benefits humanity. The PBC's charter and governance will reflect that, and they're already putting money where their mouth is. Alongside this recapitalization plan, the nonprofit is launching a $50 million grant initiative for nonprofits and community groups. The grants will support 3 areas: AI literacy and public understanding, community innovation, and economic opportunity. Taylor says this is just the beginning, with much more possible once the recapitalization goes through. At the same time, Microsoft is hedging its bets. Even as it restructures its relationship with OpenAI, it's doubling down on its own internal AI research and development. The company is pouring resources into building its own powerful models to reduce long-term dependence and ensure it controls its own destiny in the AI arms race. That competitive tension is clear. This complex co-opetition means they are partners and rivals at the same time, a dynamic that could define the future of the industry. Microsoft needs OpenAI's tech to power its AI push, but it also wants independence in case things change down the road. Meanwhile, OpenAI is aiming for maximum flexibility, knowing that speed and agility are critical for survival in this rapidly evolving market. Becoming a PBC allows it to raise capital more like a conventional tech company, tapping Wall Street, going after IPOs, and expanding without being hamstrung by nonprofit rules. It's the kind of move that positions them to stay competitive against Google DeepMind, Anthropic, and the wave of new startups rushing into AI. And just to put a finer point on the scale here, if OpenAI really is chasing a $500 billion valuation, then the nonprofit's $100 billion stake is not just a financial cushion, it's a seismic shift in what a mission-driven tech nonprofit can do. Taylor called it one of the most well-resourced philanthropic organizations in the world. And that's no exaggeration. Of course, not everything is smooth sailing. There are plenty of legal, financial, and governance questions still unanswered. Crucially, who ultimately controls the AGI if it's developed, and how are profits distributed when the original mission was explicitly non-profit? Non-binding MOUs are just intent. They don't guarantee the final deal will look exactly like what's being floated right now. But the direction is clear. OpenAI wants to modernize its structure. Microsoft wants protections for its access, and both want to present a story that emphasizes safety and shared benefit. And let's not forget, this is unfolding in the shadow of some of the biggest AI infrastructure moves we've ever seen. That $300 billion Oracle Cloud deal, the partnerships with Google and SoftBank, the Stargate data centers, all of this means OpenAI is scaling at a level that requires reshaping the very foundation of how it's governed and financed. So where does that leave us? We're watching one of the most unusual corporate structures in tech history morph into something even stranger, a hybrid of nonprofit governance, for-profit growth, and massive philanthropic wealth. If it works, it could be a new model for how mission-driven innovation and big business can coexist. The ripple effects could redefine corporate partnerships for a generation. If it falters, it could be a mess of conflicting interests, legal headaches, and missed deadlines, serving as a cautionary tale for the entire industry. Either way, it's not boring. Microsoft and OpenAI are rewriting one of the most talked-about partnerships in the industry, and the outcome will ripple across AI, cloud computing, and even philanthropy. And with deadlines looming and billions at stake, you can bet we'll see more drama and big headlines before this chapter is done. That's it for today's deep dive. Thanks for hanging out. Catch you in the next one.